News elsewhere, let's head to Minnesota where the Wild have signed Kevin Fiala to a 2-year extension, $6 million contract. He was an RFA after having 39 points in 83 games last season. This was a guy who really jumped on the scene when Nashville made that Stanley Cup final run a couple of years ago against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Lots, you know this team better than most people out there. Have we seen Kevin Fiala hit his ceiling yet in the NHL?
No, I don't think so. I mean, he did have 23 goals just a couple of years ago, but last year, as you see right there with Minnesota, just the 3 goals in the 19 games, you can attribute that to a new team, new line mates, new coach, or you could take a harder stance and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? I think that's really what was the hang-up on this one in terms of how long it took to get him signed, but he's going to be there. I believe he's over in Switzerland right now, but will he be there on time? I'm told he will be. So, which is unusual because what people forget about these RFAs is, particularly the Europeans, is they have to have visas. So a guy like Rantanen that's back in Finland or Laine, it's a little easier in Canada, but in the U.S., because of this day, it's a little bit more difficult to get people in the country as quickly as we used to. So there's that whole dynamic. But in terms of the contract, I think it's a good contract. He's a guy that you want to see more from before you're willing to commit long term. I don't think that was ever on the table.
And I also think that as a player, when you have a new GM come in, there's concern. You were brought in his case, Kevin Fiala, he was brought in under Paul Fenton. And Paul Fenton was very familiar from the Nashville days with Kevin Fiala, and he was one of the future pieces that Paul Fenton wanted to change his team, younger team, faster team. He's got this upside. He has this untapped offensive ability. So now when you get Billy Guerin coming in there as GM, I'm sure there's concern from the player. I don't know what he thinks about me. He wasn't the GM that went and got me. So this is great news for Kevin Fiala. Billy Guerin understands we do need to get faster. He's a piece of the puzzle. And Kevin Fiala, it's got to feel very good to get re-upped and get ready to come in and make an impact.